Alright, so you might have already seen from the title of my video, but today I'm going to be talking about the top 3 places you might have heard to avoid living in when moving to Kelowna, British Columbia. This video is not going to be what you think. It's not going to be a video of me trashing certain areas of Kelowna. Instead, I'm going to go over the 3 most talked about areas to avoid here in Kelowna. I'm going to tell you what's true, what's not true, and why each of these areas may be a great option for you when you're decided to move to the Okanagan's premier city in Kelowna, British Columbia. So let's get right into it. All right, so the 3 areas we are going to be talking about, I just wanted to quickly pull up a map of Kelowna and geographically show you where these neighborhoods actually are. So the 3 areas we're going to talk about is the Glen Rosa neighborhood, Kelowna North, aka Kelowna Downtown, and the Rutland neighborhood. So taking a look first, West Kelowna, the most western point of West Kelowna is the Glen Rosa neighborhood, and it occupies a decent sized chunk on your last stop out of town. Roughly covers this area right here. You know, you're sandwiched by, you got West Bank Center right here all the way down to the water. This is West Bank Center. This is kind of the city center of West Kelowna. Then of course you have the Smith Creek area up in here, and then you get into the Shannon Lake. So these are kind of the core neighborhoods at the most western part of West Kelowna. And Glen Rosa occupies here. Like I said, it is the last stop out of town, and you'll see you just hop on here, like right here. As soon as you hit the highway here out of Glen Rosa, you can either go on the 97C, the connector that goes to the Coquihalla, brings you all the way out to Vancouver, or you can head down south, hit up Peachland, all the way to Summerland, Penticton, Osoyoos, Oliver, all the way down to the States. So that's the Glen Rosa area we're going to be talking about. Kelowna North or Kelowna Downtown occupies this area right here. So it's everything north of the highway. Kelowna North and South is divided by Highway 97, and you're sandwiched so right up into Knox Mountain here. Most of this part, there's a chunk here that's Old Glenmore, so it's mostly this downtown core right here. I would call Kelowna North or Kelowna Downtown. Of course, it's right alongside Lake Okanagan. Let me get out of here. And like I said, you have Kelowna South right here. You have the Old Glenmore, and then Glenmore area up here with Wilden, Dilworth Mountain here. And you get into Kelowna South, Borders, Springfield, and Spall as you go up. But this is the main area of Kelowna Downtown that I'm going to be referring to when we talk about it. And lastly, but certainly not least, we're going to be talking about Rutland. Rutland, again, you'll hear me mention it, is a huge area. Covers basically all the way down to here, all the way in this area, pretty much everything but Black Mountain. It's a huge area. It's divided between Rutland North and South. Instead of Highway 97 dividing these 2 areas, it's going to be Highway 33 that splits these 2 areas right here. And then it's sandwiched by, I mean, it's not really sandwiched by the Dilworth area, but Dilworth is just a jump across the highway. You have Black Mountain here, Kelowna South a little lower, and just above you have the Ellison area. So again, those are the 3 areas we're going to be talking about. And just in case you're unfamiliar with the area, I just wanted to give you a bit of a sense on where they are in reference to Kelowna. So Glen Rosa on the westernmost side. Rutland, honestly, it's on the easternmost side of Kelowna, and then right dead center is Kelowna North, aka Kelowna Downtown. So now that we got you situated geographically a little bit, let's get into the reasons why some people think these are not so great areas. All right, so now you've kind of orientated yourself geographically to where these certain neighborhoods are in Kelowna. But now let's break down each individual neighborhood, kind of see what all the fuss is about, what people are saying about the area, what may be true, what may not be true, go over some of the cons, the pros, and who these areas might be best suited for. So let's start off first with the most western neighborhood, all the way to the edge of West Kelowna, and that's the Glen Rosa neighborhood. So first, let me go over what are people saying about Glen Rosa. Why do people think this is a bad neighborhood, and why some people may find it an undesirable neighborhood or location? And I kind of just tipped you off there to one of the biggest complaints about this area, and it's the location. Most people, when they complain about Glen Rosa, I think the top complaint I hear about the area is that it's too far. Now that statement is a relative statement because it's too far for who? Too far for what? Yes, if you are living in Glen Rosa, maybe you work at the airport, maybe you have to go to the university, or honestly, even into downtown Kelowna. This may not be the best option for you, but again, it all depends. What are you used to? Are you used to the traffic and situations down in the GTA of Toronto, or even the lower mainland? Then the commute from Glen Rosa is probably not going to blow your mind like it does some people. But I will say, this is one of the complaints about the area that I will say has some validity to it. When going from one end of West Kelowna to the other and crossing the bridge, I mean, you're hitting the most lights you could possibly imagine. And that morning bridge traffic, it can get pretty brutal, especially in the mid of summer. Honestly, every day during rush hour, if there's an accident, it's an absolute nightmare. And as it stands right now, there is not too much hope that there's going to be some type of alleviation for this bridge traffic. So that's kind of combining two. People complain that it's too far. Again, relative too far to what? Too far to downtown Kelowna, too far to the university area for sure. And the traffic can be brutal. The rush hour times, coming back over the bridge on rush hour and getting to work in the morning if you're having to travel into Kelowna. Yeah, it can be pretty painful. Another thing people feel about this area is that it's a very suburban area, but that it lacks amenities. This complaint I don't really agree with, because Glen Rosa is definitely a suburban environment. There's not too many amenities right in the neighborhood, but hopping on the highway for a couple of minutes getting to the West Bank area or taking the back roads to the big box stores in West Kelowna is an absolute breeze and takes you no time at all realistically. Now, could Glen Rosa use a little more amenities actually in the neighborhood? For sure. And that goes the same for quite a few areas in Kelowna. I mean, the Upper Mission is finally just getting some useful amenities now. And maybe that's something that's going to come to Glen Rosa in the future. I don't really know. I'm not sure what type of amenities that neighborhood and how populated it is could really support. But as of right now, I don't believe that's a valid complaint in the area. It's quick and easy to get into the West Bank area. And to get to those big box stores, it's nothing. So those are kind of the three biggest complaints about the Glen Rosa area. So really, it doesn't come across as that awful, to be fair. But the pros of this area, and there are quite a few pros, the number one and kind of the end-all be-all reason why you should move to this area is the benchmark price. As you can see from this chart, the benchmark price for a single-family home in Glen Rosa is just over $760,000, which here in the central Okanagan is significantly cheaper than most areas. So affordability is a huge selling point for the Glen Rosa area. Now, like I mentioned earlier, it's also a beautiful suburban area that may not have many amenities in terms of stores, but it has tons of parks, playgrounds, fantastic schooling options, and access to regional parks. So if you're an outdoorsy person, Glen Rosa is a great option for you. You're backed along the tree line, so you have incredible access to the outdoors. And if you're somebody who needs to be traveling south for work or any activities that you might want to do, but you want to still be living in Kelowna, West Kelowna, Glen Rosa is going to be the best option for you. You are second from being on Highway 97 South, heading toward Peachland, Summerland, Penticton, Osoyoos, Oliver, Naramata, anywhere down south that you may want to go. Glen Rosa is going to be your quickest and best option for that. Also, if you're having to travel a lot to Vancouver, Glen Rosa again is going to be your best access and easiest access to the main highway, to that connector that's going to bring you to the Coquihalla and get you out of town as fast as possible. Me in the Upper Mission, I'm going to have to drive through all of Kelowna, all of West Kelowna, hitting the what feels like thousands and thousands of lights just to get out of town. That is the longest part of my trip, is leaving my house to go to Vancouver, just getting to the edge of West Kelowna. But when you're in Glen Rosa, it takes mere minutes. So now, having said all that, who do I believe Glen Rosa is a great neighborhood for? And do I feel like some of the negativity is unfounded for this area? Absolutely. Number one, and I've said this many times, the biggest complaint is that its location, it's too far. From what? If you're somebody who gets to work from home, is working in West Kelowna, is working down south, and you're somebody who's a first-time home buyer, maybe somebody who's on a tight budget, buying for a family, and wants some sort of affordable option here in the central Okanagan, Glen Rosa is going to give you all of that. It's a great, safe neighborhood. You can get into a house that's going to give you some decent amount of space as well. And if you're someone who wants to be in the Kelowna, West Kelowna area, but doesn't have that need to always be going to downtown Kelowna, then it really doesn't matter. You're not going to be affected by the traffic as much as if you're somebody who's working a 9 to 5 and has to hit that bridge traffic every day at the same time and rush hour to and from. Yeah, that could definitely be frustrating. But if you're not that person, I think Glen Rosa is a fantastic option for you. It's something you should definitely explore. Not only does it have the 70s, 80s, 90s, early 2000s single family homes, but there are a lot of new developments out that way if you're wanting something that's a little newer, a little more modern and updated. Glen Rosa also has those options as well. Before we get into the next neighborhood, as you guys can see, there is a lot of nuances to each of these neighborhoods and a lot of things you may hear or read on the internet that may be different from what is reality. So to help you figure that out and navigate, especially if you're doing something like making a big move here, or if you live here, you're new and you want to figure out what's going to work for you, just reach out to me. Don't hesitate to call, text, email me anytime at the information on the screen right now, and I'll be happy to help you out. Now, moving on to the next neighborhood we're going to talk about, and that is the downtown neighborhood, or Kelowna North. Now, the biggest complaints and negative comments I hear about this area are, one, that it's dangerous. There's a huge issue with the homeless population downtown, and you're not getting the bang for your buck that you might get in other areas. I will say each one of those complaints does have some semblance of validity to it for sure. Now, overall, do I think Kelowna North in the downtown area is a very dangerous? Would I feel uncomfortable walking by myself? No. Especially when you're out on the town, it's the middle of summer and it's a very populated area. No, I would not be concerned about that. But like most cities, there are certain areas and neighborhoods of every single city that crime is going to be a little higher, and that's generally the downtown area. Is it because of the increased homeless population in this area? Yeah, probably. A ton of the resources for people affected by homelessness and mental health are downtown. And if you've seen in my previous videos, just along the rail trail in this area right here is the homeless camp. So the homeless camp is this area, and then a lot of the resources are in this main downtown core area. So you are gonna have homeless people coming to and from these areas. And I'm not gonna lie, like it's not an issue or it's not apparent, because in certain areas it absolutely is. And with that, there can be higher crime rates, some level of increased danger for sure. But overall, I can't say like it's an incredibly sketchy place to go that I would be scared to go there on my own. Now, if you're a female and you're walking home from work and you have to walk in the downtown core area or kind of the back end of downtown closer to Knox in the middle of the night, would I have some safety concerns? Yeah, absolutely. I'd probably have that in any area, to be fair, but downtown is definitely an area you may want to be on a bit higher alert, but it's still a fun, amazing, great option for people to live in. So again, there is some validity to the homelessness and the danger aspect of downtown. I would never label downtown Kelowna as dangerous, but living downtown in the city, living downtown in Vancouver, living downtown in Montreal, Toronto, New York, California, Calgary, Edmonton, all of these cities, living in the downtown is going to have some level of increased risk, I guess you could say. Especially because generally when people are living in downtown, they are walking a lot more because downtown has such a high walkability score that you're going to be out and about more, and I guess there's just more chance of running into some sort of trouble, I guess I would say. Now, in terms of the bang for your buck, that really depends. You've heard me say it in multiple videos before. When it comes to single family home, the downtown core, Kelowna North, Kelowna South, is not the best bang for your buck. Areas in these single family homes are very old homes, usually on a decent footprint of 0.25 of an acre, 0.3 of an acre, sometimes up to 0.5 of an acre, with very small homes, sometimes around 1,000 to 1,500 square feet for a single family home. So generally, you wouldn't think something like that costs a lot of money, but I would say the majority of these style homes are in the 800,000 to most of them over $1 million, and it's because of their high density zoning potential for future use. Most people are selling these properties or buying these properties in multiple lots next to each other, or even bigger size lots, and they're just tearing down that old home and putting up a fourplex or row townhouses or even small apartment complexes. So because of this area is more of a developer's market, and with the developer's market, the average price is going to definitely be higher. As you see, looking at these benchmark prices of single family homes in this area, we're a lot closer to the $900,000 range, and you're also getting a lot less of a home in this area as well. So yes, there is validity to that as well. Now, the pros of this area, number one being is access to amenities. I mean, if you're living in downtown, you're so close to all the restaurant, bars, shops, waterfront, nightlife, cultural districts. I mean, Kelowna's downtown is fantastic. It's exciting. It's a lot of fun, especially in the busy summer months when they shut down Bernard and people are pouring into the streets. And if you are living in this area, most likely you're going to be looking for a condo, which the condos in downtown are fantastic. There's more and more new construction going up that are going to give you incredible views of the city, great access to all those amenities I just talked about, and a safer environment too, because these condos generally have pretty good security systems and security access to make you feel safer than living maybe in a single family home that backs onto an alleyway. And with all these amenities, and like I previously just mentioned, the downtown area has the best walkability score of any other neighborhood in all of Kelowna. If you're living downtown, you're working downtown, you can literally walk anywhere. If you don't want to have a vehicle, that's fine, because the downtown main bus loop that gives you access to everywhere else in the city is right off of Queensway in the heart of downtown. There's tons of those electric bikes, electric scooters. We now have Uber here, so access around the city from the downtown core is going to be second to none. And like I just briefly mentioned, our restaurant and bar scene, we're getting new restaurants all the time. We have a great brewery district in the north end of town, and then obviously restaurants and bars throughout the whole city. Besides Kelowna South and Lower Mission, Kelowna North is also going to give you the best water access to anywhere in the city. Whether you're going from Tugboat Beach off the docks at Kinsman Park, we have the Waterfront Park, and of course City Park. There's literally beaches across the entire shoreline here. This is just an incredibly convenient area. There's a ton of culture. There's just a ton of energy here, and it is a absolutely vibrant place to live. So then who is this area for? Well, so if you have safety concerns, you want the most bang for your buck, you need to be in a single family home, yeah, the downtown core is probably not going to be for you. But if you're looking for more of that urban lifestyle, you don't have to have a vehicle. You can walk and get to everywhere you want. You want to be surrounded by bars, restaurants, that high energy of what it feels like to actually live in a city. This area is going to be your number one option for sure. And regardless of if you want that or not, if you want to be living in some of the best condos in the city, the downtown core has every other area beat hands down. Whether it's One Water Street, Waterscapes, some of the newer buildings like Water Street by the park, and with more and more construction coming into these areas, I think the property values are just going to increase. Also, if you're planning on going to university here, they are building the downtown UBCO campus, and you are not far from Okanagan College if that's where you end up going either. So with downtown Kelowna, yeah, you definitely have some validity in some of the complaints that you hear about this area, but I think the pros definitely override that. So now we're ending with a banger. Obviously, probably the most talked about when you have a list of the places not to live in Kelowna. The most stigmatized area, second to none in the Okanagan, and that is the Rutland neighborhood. So what are the cons? What do you always hear about Rutland? You hear that it's dangerous, it's sketchy, it's old and run down, and it has this stigma about it that just won't leave. So first off, I'll just touch on the stigma. Rutland definitely has a stigma. I mean, they make the straight out of Rutland stickers for a reason here. Some people like to wear it as a patch to show where they came from, which I think is great. I mean, I think it kind of gives a wrong message. When you drive through Rutland, you're not exactly like, well, this is comparable to Compton. I think that's ridiculous. It's something that I definitely, with my videos, try to counteract, because I've worked in Rutland, I've spent a lot of time in Rutland, I've showed a lot of houses in Rutland, and I don't get that sense when I'm going through that area that it deserves the stigma that it gets. It's something that just stuck with people, and I feel like generationally it's been passed down, because you have people coming from areas from all over the place, and if they connect with someone in Kelowna and they ask what areas to avoid, people without even a second thought will say Rutland, and they have no reason for it. They probably never spent any time in Rutland. Maybe they've had a bad experience there. I'm not saying that doesn't happen, but overall I think it's something that just sticks, and it's something that's easy to say. So in terms of, do I think the stigma for Rutland is valid? Back in the day, it may have been sketchier before my time here. Now, absolutely not. No questions about it. Now, are there some dangerous and sketchy areas in Rutland? Yeah, sure. I feel that Rutland has a couple areas that I would definitely avoid. It has a bit of a homeless presence in certain areas, not as much as downtown, but you know, we have the welfare office in Rutland. Not as many resources in the Rutland area, but there is homeless camps along the rail trail, and I think people tend to migrate from the rail trail into some of the parks in Rutland, like Roxbury Park, like Bentley Park. But overall, Rutland is such a massive area. It's like its own town inside of the city. There are tons of incredible areas, and Rutland is so big that it almost has this like little downtown core that has some of the sketchiness of a regular downtown in any city. I'll just say it, I would avoid probably most places on Nickel Road, Hine Road, some of the Dougal area, And then by the Petro on Highway 33, I know there's a kind of a motelish complex back there that's a little rundown. I mean, it is not far away from the school, so it can't be that sketchy. But overall, Rutland has so many nice areas. So this one is kind of half and half. Is there some dangerous, sketchy areas? Yes. Is it as bad as people say? 100% no. And in terms of old and run down, I mean, there's definitely a lot of older homes in Rutland, but it's kind of like the downtown and central core in the fact that it's getting a lot of redevelopment in this area, definitely getting a facelift. And I think Rutland is going to be one of those places in 10 to 20 years that is going to increase in value tremendously. So those are definitely the biggest complaints I hear about Rutland. Again, a lot of unfounded, just like verbal diarrhea. People say Rutland is like, oh, that's awful. That's the scariest place in the Okanagan. Wild. Definitely don't agree with that. But the pros of Rutland, number one, talk about affordability. You have Glen Rosa deep onto the west side, but in terms of a central area on the Kelowna side, Rutland is going to give you the best bang for your buck. It's going to give you the best bang for your buck, not only for a first-time home buyer, someone looking to get into a condo or townhouse, because it has options for everything, but someone looking to invest in an affordable single-family home under $1 million that has a suite as a little mortgage helper that they plan to, live in, rent out the basement to eventually rent out both top and bottom, pull equity out of it, and then buy another property. I can't think of a better area in, honestly, most of the Okanagan, especially the central Okanagan, better than Rutland to do that. If you take a look at the benchmark pricing, you'll see we're back to those Glen Rosa prices around $700,000 to $750,000. So still quite affordable, again, in terms of the Okanagan. So affordability, investment opportunities. And like I mentioned, it's like a town within the city, like a large town within the city. You have Rutland North, you have Rutland South. So there are a ton of amenities, literally everything you can need. Plus great access to the city. You hit Springfield, you have great access to the Springfield Spa area, which has the malls and a lot of restaurants and shops. It's not that far from downtown, but Rutland kind of has its own downtown. So you have your restaurants, shops, bars, probably the most amount of schools in a particular area. You have great access to UBCO. You have one of the closest access points to the airport if you have to fly in and out of town a lot. If you're going north out of the city, it's quick and easy to jump on the highway and be out of the city. If you're heading up to Black Mountain or going to Big White in the winter, besides Black Mountain or I guess Joe Rich, you're going to have the quickest access to Big White. So Rutland is tremendously convenient. It has all the resources you need. Like I said, tons of schools, so some really great family-friendly areas. It's definitely a multicultural and diverse atmosphere in terms of the families that move there, the restaurants, the types of grocery stores they have there. So there are a ton of amazing aspects to it. Plus, it's honestly, like you'll see from some of these shots, it's a really beautiful area. There are some incredible parks there, and it's one of those places like kind of downtown in the summer, it really just comes alive. If you watch a lot of my videos, you often hear me preaching for Rutland. You would think I have some kind of stake in Rutland or I live in Rutland. I don't. I think it's a great option and there's a lot of opportunity there, and it's somewhere that I think there's not many places in the central Okanagan area where you can kind of get in low still, and I think it's going to really increase over the next 10 to 15 years, and Rutland is one of those options. It's like if you could get into Big White, honestly, 10 years ago, it would be similar to that. Now, who do I feel like Rutland is for? Well, again, it's going to be for those young families, first-time home buyers, people looking to invest. It's going to have a ton of affordable, great options for you, especially if you're looking to get into that affordable single-family homes with suites. Rutland is going to be your best option. Somebody who's maybe going to the university, wants to be close to the airport, or just wants great access to everywhere in the city. You kind of have your Glenmore is the best access point to the city, and then Rutland for kind of how diverse it is. I think it's second or third on the list for other neighborhoods that have the best access throughout the city. If you're going to be going to Big White all the time, Rutland's a fantastic option. If you're looking to get into a place, like I said, that has opportunity for growth, again, Rutland is a fantastic option for that. I think Rutland is the long-term play, but honestly, each neighborhood, each area in Kelowna in the central Okanagan is going to have those lifestyles that really mesh with them, and those lifestyles or what you're looking for that doesn't really match. And if you're unfamiliar with the area, it may be hard to decide what's going to work and what's not going to work for you. So in order to help you out, you got to reach out to me. Call me, text me, email me, whatever's convenient for you. My contact information is on the screen right now. Let me help you out. We'll have a phone call. We'll figure out what's going to work best for you. I'll set you up on a search, or we'll have some sort of consultation, or even get you out to certain areas so you can see what the city is all about. But you won't figure that out unless you reach out to me. Again, that's the point of me doing these videos, you know, is to showcase the areas. You got to check out my channel if you want breakdowns of all of these neighborhoods to help you make the best decision you could in your life, and that's moving to the Okanagan. Again, my name is Boholij, your Okanagan real estate professional and relocation specialist. This is my channel, living in Kelowna, British Columbia. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope it was helpful, and I will definitely catch you in the next video.